Happy Sunday, everybody, and welcome to another Arkansas football recruiting report. That is Otis Kirk. I am Jacob Morris. Otis, it is official visit season. We've got a slew of hopefully future Hogs that we're going to roll through here in town on campus over the past weekend. And, we're just going to kind of fly around, going in non-specific order, but we're going to start with two targets that you have your eye on big time. All these guys are priority targets for the Hogs, but these two stand out maybe a little bit of leg above. We'll start on the offensive side of the ball. Both of these guys offensive, but skill
Yeah.
position guy, Chase Campbell, wide receiver. And, if you pull up his 24/7 page, Otis, and you roll down, Arkansas has a visit, but so does about half the country. You got Tennessee,
Jay,
North Carolina, Utah, Kansas State, Texas Tech, Baylor, Oklahoma State with visits
Kansas
scheduled as
State,
well.
Texas,
Yep,
Tennessee.
yep.
Yeah,
He's an in
it's a
desire
who's
guy
who.
because he's a fantastic talent and a wide receiver the Hogs want to add.
One good thing about Chase is his dad and mother both played for the Razorbacks. His mother was an All-American with the track team, and dad Marcus Campbell was nicknamed Showtime and played for the football team. Played for Danny Ford and Houston Nutt and them. So yeah, but yeah, Marcus, was a really good player when he was here. Of course, his mother was an All-American. But Chase, Chase is a great player in his own right. Plays at Wofford Friendship High School down in Texas. 4-star recruit. As you said, he's got a list of. He's got 7 other official visits. He's going to take 8. Used to you're going to take 5, but the NCAA did away with that. Now limit you. I mean, now you can take unlimited official visits. So he's going to take 8. That's more than usual. He last year in high school he caught 81 passes for 1,497 yards and 18 touchdowns. Uh, rushed 81 rushed 38 times for 314 yards and 6 touchdowns. He was 3 of 6 passing for 97 yards and 2 touchdowns. The kid can do it all. He's really good. I mean, as good as his dad was, this kid's going to be a better player than his dad was. His dad was good, but Chase is going to be one of the best. Well, he's one of the best players in the country. He's one of the best uncommitted wide receivers in the country, and I think Arkansas's got a really good chance at him. I mean, he got family ties. Got a lot of family in Arkansas. 2 of his uncles, he said, came up and visited while he was here this weekend. So, still living in Arkansas. So, yeah, he's got strong ties to the state. I believe his dad played at North Little Rock, Jacob, if I'm not mistaken. Played at North Little Rock before he came to Arkansas. But anyway, that's what someone to watch. He's going to try to make a commitment. I think all these kids said this today, though. All of them talked about making a decision before the senior season rolls
Yeah.
around, making a decision this summer. And the only one now, the next one we're going to talk about, Bryce Gilmore, exactly has an exact date and has a reason for that exact date.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we said it off the top. These are two guys that are, at least recruiting ranking wise, a little bit of leg above. Bryce Gilmore, an offensive lineman, and he's a top 100 guy 24/7. And, again, if you just do the recruiting page check in, it becomes abundantly clear right away by the types of schools Arkansas is battling for Gilmore services with Ole Miss, Penn State, and pretty much everybody else in the entire country. He's a
Yeah,
guy on the
Tennessee
offensive
again.
line.
Yeah,
He's a priority big time.
yeah. And he's going to commit on July the 3rd. And the reason for that date, it's nothing to do with the 4th of July. His birthday is July the 3rd.
There you
So
go.
that's, and Bryce, I tell you what they did with Bryce and the other 2 offensive linemen that came in. They brought out the big dogs. They brought in Fernando Cremona and Corey Robinson. And I found it that was interesting, but it's not unusual for Arkansas to do that, especially for priority recruits. But Bryce told me something that I really didn't know. He said a lot of schools, the top players and top starters and stuff at those schools don't want to talk to recruits. He was shocked at Arkansas. He was impressed at Arkansas's start. Uh, I think it's fair to say that the premier 2 offensive linemen for Arkansas, took time out to host them and answered all their questions and just had a great time with them. So he said that was very impressive. It gave him an atmosphere of a family atmosphere here, and of course he likes Mateus and he likes Sam Pittman. In fact, Sam Pittman was a head coach. I mean, was an offensive line coach before he became a head coach. That all those offensive linemen talk about that because it's usually a quarterback coach or offensive coordinator or even a defensive coordinator, but not usually the offensive line coach. But they're impressed with that, and so yeah. But Bryce Gilmore is, he's listed 6'5", 290, but Jacob, and I forgot to ask him today, but he sure looks bigger than that. You see kids listed at 6'5", 290, and look, I mean that's big. That's big. Don't get me wrong, and believe me, he is big, but he just looks taller than 6'5". The 300 weight range. That I can believe that, but the 6'5", to me, he just looks taller than that. I saw him over Jerry Meadows, and I saw him at a practice over here in the football stadium one day, and I said then that he walked by us, and I just said, man, he's what offensive linemen are supposed to look like. But to me, I wish I was going to ask him, and it was kind of hectic and everything, and recruits come in, and I didn't want to miss anybody, and so, but he just looks bigger than 6'5" to me. He looks taller, but whatever. He's definitely big enough, big offensive tackle out there, priority on the offensive line. He's the type kid that could come in and play immediately. He's even on the offensive line. You don't say that about a lot of offensive linemen, but he's someone that I think could play immediately. He's that good.
You talked about the family background when we were talking about Campbell right off the rip. He's also got NFL pedigree just from the standpoint that his dad, I think it was 8 seasons as a wide receiver, and obviously different positions, but a guy that's been around the game a lot. And it's funny you bring that story up because that was the first thing I thought of when you said to me when he walked past you in the facility, right? You said, "Who is that player? Who is this guy that Arkansas has that I don't know?" You didn't even realize he's a recruit. He looks like a guy that's ready to come in and contribute right
Yeah.
away.
Yeah, you see these kids that when you see kids that, like I said, are listed as 6'5", 6'6", and sometimes they don't look like it, but they are. But this kid looks taller than that, and it just he's really good. And but I found it interesting. He said that a lot of schools don't want to. The
Yeah.
top players at that school won't talk to you and don't want to recruit, and so, but our, Sam has always had that attitude. It's like you're not no one's too good to be brought out to recruit
Hmm.
kids. No one feels like they're put on a pedestal. I remember, even back when other coaches were here, Darren McFadden would do that. Felix Jones, other kids, they've done that with ever since all the coaches are. It's always been kind of a everybody really put on a pedestal at Arkansas. I like that too. I do like that. And but yeah, but if you could get those two kids right there, we've talked about Chase Campbell and Bryce Gilmore. If you could get those two, that's a heck of a boost to any class in America. And as you said, they've got a ton of competition for both those kids, as you would expect.
Yeah.
And but that's how you don't get them if you don't recruit them. And I think Arkansas's chances on both of them probably as good as anybody, maybe better than most people's. And in fact, I really feel I think they'll get Gilmore. I really do. Do I have? Has he told me that? No, and he's not indicated he's even leaning to Arkansas. But I just got a feeling they're going to get Gilmore. That's my gut feeling on him. Now, with the schools visiting Ole Miss, that can obviously change. It probably will, but you hope it don't. But it could. But my gut feeling. But one thing that I've noticed about Bryce too, and I will say this because a lot of people don't realize this, but recruits don't like to talk on the phone anymore, and because they're hounded. I mean, there's a million Otis Kirk recruit guys out there. When I first started this, there wasn't about 5 or 6 of us in the world in the United States, so everybody was anxious to talk on the phone. But now they want to. But I will say this about Bryce Gilmore: he has answered my call or called me back every single
Mm.
time, or if I text him, he'll text me back. The kid is very, very polite person, very good person, and just in addition to being a good football player, he's just a very good person, and you appreciate that.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, Gilmore and Campbell, priority targets to say the least
Yeah,
for
and
Arkansas
they're both
moving
good
forward.
kids. They're both
Yeah.
good from good family, and just the type of people that you want. Not just talent, obviously talent wise, they can play for anybody, but the type kids too, with the attitude and the attitude they have. They fit in any program, and those are who you want in your program. Kids like that.
They'd both be a heck of a boost to the 2026 class. We're gonna keep rolling through some of the offensive visits after a quick break. All right, back here on the Arkansas Football Recruiting Report, Otis Kirk and Jacob Morris with you. Otis, let's stay on the offensive side of the ball. The quarterback was in town for the Hogs of the class of 2026. Javon Gilmore, he's been on this show before, and
Yeah,
he's a guy that Arkansas has committed as it stands. It's not a guy that Arkansas is trying to hunt down, but still good to get him on campus and get him around some of his offensive linemen. We talked about that with Tucker last week. Get him around some of the linemen that are said to be protecting him once he arrives on campus.
yeah, and I asked Javon this morning. I asked him if he's still 100% on his commitment to Arkansas.
Hmm,
Because, to be honest with you, he was at a camp and had a South Carolina towel, and I
yeah.
don't know if that was just somebody gave it to him or what. But he told me, yeah, he's still 100% committed, still a solid 100% committed to Arkansas, not considering anyone else. take that for what it's worth, but that's what he told me. I did ask him. But he completed 180 of 297 passes for 2,510 yards, only 8 interceptions, 26 touchdowns. He's a kid. We've talked about this too. About he does, and he talked about when he doesn't run right, but he had 80 carries for 176 yards and 2 touchdowns. He can run it, but he prefers to stay in the pocket and wait for the receiver to make his cut and break and try to stay in there and pass as much as he can instead of breaking down the pocket and running with it. So he's definitely a pass first guy, but he does have athleticism enough to run it if he needs. He helped them to a 10-2 record this year, which was
Hmm.
pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I think I guess it's player dependent, but Otis, we've talked about also it's almost the preference when you talk quarterbacks. It's a little bit rare that you hear a high school guy go, "No, I'm more comfortable staying in the pocket
Yeah.
and letting things develop." When
Well,
somebody's beginning to play football, even elite players, the first result is just to rely on athleticism and get out and go. First read's not there, I'm gone. It's impressive the way that he talked about that when we spoke with him last year. He was
yeah,
talking about that before his
yeah.
junior season, and I think he's potentially a major asset and a guy that if Bobby Petrino can get his hands on him, it could be a lot of fun. But let's talk wide receiver, a guy that he potentially could be throwing to. Blair Irvin, a Bentonville guy, Kansas State, USF, a couple interested parties as well. But a local kid kind of reminds me of CJ Brown there in terms of local connections as a wide
Yeah, yeah,
receiver.
and they're good friends too, as you
Mhm.
would expect. Be a Bentonville. And
Yeah.
Blair said he moved here in the third grade from Missouri. He said he didn't grow up following any team, including Missouri, but he said down here everybody's crazy about the Razorbacks. He said it grows on you, and he said it's grown on him, and he said he does like them. Distance to home. Now that with CJ, that was the biggest thing. I mean, I said unless somebody can move their campus closer to Bentonville than Arkansas, CJ Brown's coming. With this kid, that's not a factor. He
Okay.
said that's no factor at all. But you see, USL, South Florida, and Kansas State are going to get South Florida next weekend, Kansas State the weekend after that, and he's another one that's going to make a decision for the senior season. Well, pretty soon after those visits. So in the next 3 or 4 weeks, we should have an answer on uh, Blair. And he said if he gets to the point that he thinks it's time to pull the trigger before then, he'll do it. But right now, the plan is to take those other 2 visits. But he's 6'1", 180. He had 50 catches for 850 yards and 10 touchdowns this year. A very good Bentonville team. They went to the state championship game. I believe they got second place in the state, if I remember right. But but he had a good season, played well. You know, he's good friends with CJ and those two similar in size. He's 6'1", 180. Similar size to CJ, maybe a tad taller than CJ was, but not much. But they're really similar size. Both from a very good program here, right next to the campus and everything. And he's the type of player you want to see him keep in state just simply because he's from here and he plays a position that he can get on the field pretty quick. So, but he and Chase both had good visits
Mhm.
here, and I know Ronnie Fouch would like to have both those kids and get them in the program and see if they can, see what they can do with them after they get them there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's always the key with local guys. You just don't want to see them go elsewhere. But it is interesting what you mentioned about the difference a little bit between Brown and Irvin there in terms of. I remember you saying that about CJ. Unless somebody can
Yeah,
move the campus closer, it ain't going to happen.
uh,
But that's not the case with
it
Irvin.
no, it wasn't happening for anyone else.
Yeah.
I saw these people projecting CJ to go to Oklahoma State or maybe it was Kansas or Kansas State. I don't remember
Yeah.
now, but I seeing these experts were predicting this, and I'm thinking, guys, you're all. And I'm not trying to be a know-it-all. But I'm just saying, this kid has told me flat out,
Yeah.
distance to home is first, second, and third priority with the.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's continue here on the offensive side of the ball. Jordan Avenger, an interesting case here, Otis, from a guy he's 6'3", 225. He plays linebacker, but Colby Smith, the primary recruiter here, a massive guy, but a guy that he plays both sides of the ball. And when you watch his highlights, if you look up his huddle, I mean, this guy just lumbers. He just moves through, and he's got quality speed as well for that position.
Well, he had 56 carries for
Yeah.
869 yards and 10 touchdowns. So that speaks volumes, man. I mean, he had he caught 10 pass or 11 pass. Here's the weird deal with him. why I say weird. Here's the strange thing with him. You don't see this very often, but all the schools recruiting him, Arkansas is the only one wanting him at running back.
Mm,
Everybody else at linebacker. So I asked him, does that give Arkansas an advantage? He said, I don't know because I don't know what I want to play. But
there you
obviously, if he decides he wants to be a running back, it's going to be a huge advantage for the Hogs. But if he wants to be a linebacker, then it may not be such an advantage. But it was just interesting. I figured because he had 50 tackles on
yeah.
defense, 6 for loss, a forced fumble. The normal pretty good stats on that side. Especially for a kid that big, it goes both ways. But yeah, but just it's just strange that he said that was the only school recruiting him to play running back. I know he's rated a linebacker, and I think that's where most people see him. But obviously, Kobe sees something in him, and if you watch his film, like you said, though, uh, I had a story on all these visitors the other day, and I put a highlight video for all of them in
Yeah.
there, and you can watch his video, and you can see why. So Kobe or anyone would like him at running back. I mean, he's got good speed. I mean, he's got excellent size. His size is legit. I mean, he's a big kid, powerful, got can break the play. Well, I mean, when you carry 56 times for 869 yards, I don't even know what that's what 15 yards a carry or something. I mean, 15, 16 yards a carry. I mean, that's pretty good.
15 and a
And 10
half. How about that
touchdowns.
quick math from you, Otis? That's 15 and a half. Yeah. Right on
Yeah,
from you.
yeah. Well, 10 touchdowns for 56 carries. So about every 5 carries, he scores a touchdown. So, yeah, I mean, you can see why Kobe would want him at running back.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't know why more schools don't. But regardless of that, and here's the thing about him. I've always thought too. I didn't ask him this. I should have. But if he got to Arkansas and it didn't work out at running back, he could move over to linebacker here.
Mm.
I'm sure T. Will would love to have him. Because schools are recruiting him for that, and he's a good linebacker. I watched his tape. He's good on both sides of the ball. So whatever. I mean, I don't know, but we'll see. We'll see if, like I said, if he wants to be a running back, he's coming to Arkansas. If he decides he wants to be a linebacker, probably not.
Yeah.
It's going to be that simple. But he is going to make a decision this summer before school starts. But all these kids, I think, told me that today. I think every single the ones that haven't made a decision, kids like Tucker Young, Javon Gilmore, obviously have made a decision. But the rest of them said they were going to try to. They all want to go into their senior season, not have recruiting hanging over, if at all possible.
Yeah.
But
Makes sense.
Chase Campbell, we'll say this real quick on him. I hate to bounce around, but he did say he's not going to rush into a decision. He
Okay.
wants to have it made before the end, but if he doesn't have a decision made, he will not rush into it just to say, I made my decision.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, 6'3", 225 for Jordan Avinger. That would be a heck of a size advantage there at running back for the Hogs. It'll be interesting to see what he does.
Yeah.
We've got 3 more official visitors to roll through, but first, let's take a quick break and hear from our sponsors. All right, back here on the Arkansas Football Recruiting Report, wrapping up shop. Otis Kirk and Jacob Morris with you. And Otis, we teased ahead to the offensive linemen a little bit when talking about Bryce Gilmore. You said there were 3. The other 2, Edward Baker and Tucker Young, who we had on the show last week. And both guys that obviously Arkansas wants to bring in, but again, guys that got to meet with the offensive linemen on the roster and had the opportunity to get to know the program that way as well.
Yeah, Corey Robinson was Gilmore's host. Hosted him, but Cremona played a role in that too. But they hung out together. Tucker said he recruited both of them and said he thinks they're going to get Gilmore and Baker. That's what Tucker told me today. He said he recruited the heck out of both of them. So I mean, if Tucker's got any to say about it, they're going to get them all. But he certainly worked on it, and so did Corey Robinson and Fernando Cremona. But yeah, I mean, Baker told me that one thing that impressed him about Pittman was what I said earlier. He Pittman was an offensive line coach. Now he's the head coach, and that doesn't. Baker said that just doesn't happen that often, and that's impressive. And he feels like he can learn because Mateus was Sam's hand-picked offensive line coach, to replace, and he feels like that's a plus for Arkansas too. So it sounded good for Baker. But again, he's got Tennessee, North Carolina State, Penn State, and others. So
Yeah.
I mean, he's been to Virginia, so he's got a ton of offers. He'll have his choice of schools to go to, but that's okay. I mean, he has a choice, but that's who you want. You want kids to have other options, because if you don't have other options, they're probably not that good. So you got to go against the good ones to get them. But Arkansas is fighting some schools for Baker, but feel good about them, and Tucker feels real good about both of those other kids.
Yeah, Tucker on the show last week, he talked about, he was one of the early guys in the 2026 class, talking about, recruiting other guys into the class. Great to hear him give
Yeah.
words of affirmation in terms of that. Baker's a 6'3", 315. He's an interior guy as well, right, Otis?
In Baltimore, yeah.
Yeah.
They don't recruit Baltimore a whole lot, but they've got to where since Sam's been here, they've recruited a little bit more than they used to. They've actually signed a player or two from up there, and especially when you get in the portal, you get kids from all over the country, and some kids from Maryland played, kids at Dummerville played at Maryland, So I mean, you get that when you get in the portal, but high school too, they branched out a little bit and recruiting some high school kids from up there, and Baker's certainly one of them. If they'd love to have Baltimore, St. Francis Academy up there.
Well, let's flip over to the defensive side of the ball to wrap up here. Linebacker Caleb Gordon, a guy from, out east as well. Virginia Liberty visits coming up as well, but on campus for the Hogs, and a defensive
Yeah.
target the Hogs took a liking to, and obviously would like to add as well.
6 foot 218. I'm gonna tell you about Caleb Gordon. He's a tackling machine. If you haven't watched that video and watch it, it'll be in the story today too.
Yeah.
I'll put the same video in there today with that story if you missed the one the other day. But watch it because this kid had 141 tackles, 49 solos, 8 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, 2 interceptions, 2 fumble recoveries, and a forced fumble. He's really he is this kid's a machine on defense. I can see why T. Will likes him. And the thing about him is they don't have a linebacker in this class committed on the high school
Yeah.
ranks. Running back and linebacker are the 2 positions they don't have anyone. And Caleb Gordon is kind of a priority there at linebacker for T. Will. And I can see why. I mean, he's just a 3-star and maybe doesn't have the glamorous schools recruiting him as much as some of the other kids. But I'm telling you, this kid, he's a machine. Watch his video. If you watch his video and forget the rankings and all the hype and everything, just watch his video. You'll say that kid can play football.
I remember, I can't remember if it was in your story or somewhere else, but his 2023 highlights, the first one he has in there, it was the offense is running like a read option concept or some like slow mesh sort of situation. And if you go and watch it, it's the running or the quarterback pulls the ball from the running back, and Gordon takes out the running back into the quarterback. So,
Yeah,
in terms of being a
that's what
tackler,
I
it's a pretty
said.
good way to describe where he's at.
If you watch his video, you will be impressed. You cannot watch that and not be impressed. Like I said, forget all the hype and the rankings and the stars. Just forget all that and watch his video, and you will see why. And he's a kid that's pretty modest too. He said that he's not used to SEC big stuff.
Mhm.
He said getting up there, the highlight of the visit was getting up on top and looking down at the stadium and seeing the stadium, how big it is. He said he's not used to that. He said he's not used to SEC stuff, and he said this is awesome. And he said he will probably be back. Take that for what it means. I mean, ask him what does that mean, and he didn't say he's coming here, but he just said I will probably be back. Left it at that. So I think, but they get him, they're getting a good one. Like I said, he's not going to move you up in the recruiting rankings like a Campbell
Mhm.
or a Baker or a Gilmore. Not going to move you up in the rankings like that, but you're getting a very good football player. I mean, a football player. Like I said, just watch the highlights, and you cannot watch it and not be impressed.
8 targets the Hogs would like to add. We are primarily in official visit season now. Otis, I know you're up at 4 a.m. You're going to keep us covered with all types of articles and everything else. He's your man in terms of coverage for all this stuff. But that's going to do it for this week's Arkansas Football Recruiting Report. That is Otis Kirk. I am Jacob Morris. We will talk to you next week.